to The Fitterist Show with your host, Christopher Allen, where we explore the art of mind and body conditioning. As some gyms and fitness clubs emerge from the lockdown and begin to reopen, others are facing mounting debt obligations and are unfortunately pursuing another path. With stay-at-home orders and non-essential business mandated closings for gyms, some fitness chains were left with essentially no cash flow from memberships. Even with reopening of the economy, social distancing measures fundamentally change the way health clubs operate on a daily basis. While hopefully these are temporary changes, the cumulative toll on gym revenue has led to bigger problems. In this episode, we take a look at several fitness club chains filing for bankruptcy amidst the pandemic backdrop and what that means for their future. And even for those gyms not facing bankruptcy right now, can they stem membership cancellations as they get back to their new normal? So let's dive in. Major retail companies have filed for bankruptcy since the coronavirus pandemic hit. Falling customer demand, reduced entertainment spending, and stay-at-home orders mandating certain businesses stay closed continue to take their toll on the overall retail industry. Just a few of the companies that have filed for bankruptcy protection include companies such as J.Crew, the retailer, filed for bankruptcy on May 4th. The company also owns Madewell, which is a women's clothing and accessory brand. Also filed for bankruptcy, CMX Cinemas, chain of movie theaters with dine-in options, filed for Chapter 11 on April 25th. Luxury department store Neiman Marcus filed for Chapter 11 on May 7th. This is a over 100-year-old retailer, one of several traditional department stores that could be headed for trouble. JCPenney, based in Texas, this retailer was founded more than a century ago as well, one of the first department stores in the country, but it's been on a downturn as people turn to more online retailers, Amazon, etc., and fast fashion to shop. JCPenney's been in financial trouble for several years, filed for Chapter 11 on May 15th. Hertz, the Hertz Corporation rental car company, filed for Chapter 11 on May 22nd. They also own Dollar Rent-A-Car and Thrifty Rent-A-Car. They have 4 CEOs in 6 years, never really got on track, and filed for bankruptcy. Another retailer is Pier 1 Imports. This is a home goods retailer that actually filed for bankruptcy in February of 2020, but announced in May that it is seeking bankruptcy court approval and plans to start a wind down of the business as soon as possible. They were unable to find a buyer. They did shop the company around, but unable to find a buyer due to the pandemic. And they have 900 stores nationwide. So while bankruptcy doesn't inherently mean that a company will completely go away and go out of business, it's much more of a financial restructuring. It does definitely spell that changes are coming to that brand. In some cases, they will go away. Others will restructure and emerge, maybe smaller, hopefully more nimble, to continue on. Of course, the gym and fitness industry is not immune. So let's turn to a couple of specific instances of bankruptcy in the gym and fitness industry. So the first major brand in the fitness industry is Gold's Gym. Gold's Gym International sought court protection from its creditors as they were unable to keep up with debt payments after the prolonged shutdown caused by the pandemic. They filed for bankruptcy in the state of Texas. They're located in Plano, just north of Dallas, and they listed as around $100 million in assets and liabilities, according to court papers. Now, again, Chapter 11 bankruptcy allows a company to keep operating while it works out a plan to pay lenders and ease its overall debt load. And again, Gold's, like many other fitness clubs, forced to close. They were deemed non-essential. A number of gyms were struggling with debt before the virus shuttered that whole economy. A little bit of history of Gold's. It traces its roots back to 1965, where the first Gold's Gym in Venice, California. That enterprise has now grown to more than 700 gyms around the world. Now, the bankruptcy filing, it's important to note for the Gold's Gym International, the bankruptcy filing affects only the company-owned locations, which only represent 5 to 10% of the company's roughly 700 locations. So what's unclear is how many of the 650 or so franchise Golds will survive because those are franchisees not tied to the corporate P&L, but they may have their own debt problems independent of the corporate entity. So that flagship Gold's Gym in Venice Beach in 1965 was founded by Joe Gold. It was the home of Arnold Schwarzenegger. The movie Pumping Iron was filmed on location there, and that gym in Venice, which is about a 45,000 square foot space on corner of Hampton Drive and Sunset in Venice Beach, will apparently not be closing. That location, which is known as the Mecca of bodybuilding, and it is, will be fine and again will not be closing. When the stay-at-home orders were put in place back in mid-March, Gold's Gym Corporate revved up its digital presence by making its digital personal training app it's called Gold's Amp, and they made that free for everyone through the end of May, so people would have access to some home workout content with over 500 different indoor-outdoor workouts. Gold's Gym is also continuing their launch of their on-demand streaming of video workouts that will be live before the end of the summer. So they're looking to, not surprisingly, develop a subscription model where members would pay between $5, maybe $10. They're still working through the details on the exact pricing, but members would pay $5 to $10 more to access these virtual workouts on top of their brick and mortar memberships. We'll see. Not sure if that's going to work or not, but I think a hybrid model allowing people to work at home and go to the gym might work, and so some people might take that offer to enhance their away from the gym workouts. Also in their bankruptcy filings, the company also did disclose that they may try to sell itself to a company called TRT Holdings, which is the majority shareholder of Gold's Gym International. So they're in discussions with that company over the terms of how that might work out. Might happen, might not. It just depends on how the bankruptcy negotiation and emergent plan evolves. Gold's has also said that they are attempting, obviously, to emerge from bankruptcy by the end of the summer, so by August, early September. And while they're in this bankruptcy process, they're again still operating. They're trying to reopen their gyms as fast as they can. It varies from state to state, location to location, depending on health criteria, safety criteria, and readiness of each location. So we'll see how that evolves. So the next company that I want to discuss is 24 Hour Fitness, as recent news has broken that they are planning to file for bankruptcy. So 24 Hour Fitness is preparing a potential bankruptcy to cut its debt as it, again, struggles to try to reopen locations across the country with obviously the precautions, social distancing, etc., in place for the safety of both of its employees and its customers. So they have about 430 gyms, and they are looking in terms of a loan that would keep the company operating through the restructuring in Chapter 11. And they are looking to swap debt for equity. So the people that 24 Hour Fitness owes money to, they're trying to see if they will take equity and essentially become owners of the company. Now, even before the pandemic, 24 Hour Fitness had over $1 billion of debt stemming from a huge leverage buyout earlier. And they were also, that was exacerbated by just customer churn, where different fitness chains, Orange Theory and others at the higher end and at the lower end by the Planet Fitness started to sift off customers from 24 Hour Fitness, which kind of sat in the middle range from a club perspective. And so they were having difficulties holding on to customers and members to gyms at both the higher end and lower end. So bankruptcy does have an impact on a company. So in this case, they're talking, of course, about giving majority control to the lenders who would swap their debt for equity. And according to preliminary filings, this would wipe out the existing equity holders completely and leave bondholders with essentially little to zero stake in the reorganized company. So the company's bonds due in 2022 last traded at 3 cents on the dollar. That gives you an idea. If you were a bondholder in that company, you get nothing. 3 cents on the dollar. Not good. 24 Hour Fitness is privately held, but it did report a slide in 2019 earnings in January, partly due to challenges with an automated system for checking in and signing up customers. So memberships at 24 Hour Fitness actually fell to 3.4 million, down about 2% from 3.5 million in the previous quarter. Obviously, the lifeblood for any gym is the membership. It is recurring, automatic billing, predictable revenue. So managing the churn, which is the customers who cancel, is critical to any subscription-based business. Just to give you an idea, rule of thumb, it costs about twice as much to recruit a new customer as it does to retain an existing one. So obviously across the industry with gym closures, mandated gym closures, there were a lot of people who paused or canceled their gym membership. And just to give you an idea, from an investment bank, Harrison Company, they estimated that due to the pandemic, gym closures, the gyms and health clubs will face more than a $10 billion of revenue wiped out as clients ditch memberships, as they have to freeze memberships and not charge members during the shutdown. Just to put that in perspective, the fitness and health club industry globally was in 2019 about $85 billion. And some industry experts, this comes from Wintergreen Research, think that the health club industry could shrink all the way down to roughly $50 billion, 45 to 50 billion in 2020. That is a huge, huge hit, almost a 40% decrease in overall market value. And that assumes that people will be generally slow to return to packed gyms. So we'll keep a close eye on gyms as they reopen, how their membership, how their model moves from 50% capacity, 70% capacity, 90% capacity, all the way to full capacity, and how many members they can actually pull back into the fold. It's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. One final company that is also considering bankruptcy is Town Sports International. They primarily are located in New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and Washington area on the East Coast, and they're trying to figure out a way to get ahead of its nearly $200 million in loan maturity that is due in November of 2020. To make matters worse, Town Sports is also entangled in customer lawsuits because it actually continued to charge members during the shutdown and allegedly made it very difficult for members to cancel. So if that's true, that is a huge faux pas. You can't not allow people to cancel. You might have contractual fees that have early penalties for cancellation. That's fine, but you shouldn't really just continue to charge people when there is a nationwide and or global shutdown of health clubs. So again, Town Sports operates about 200 fitness gyms, health clubs, studios. Most of those are in the New York metro area. It's still uncertain when all of the clubs will reopen. The company is likely to experience, not surprisingly, potentially significant reduced customer demand, significant increase in membership terminations, and may be unable to recover these members or generate new ones, again, according to their bankruptcy filing. So huge industry and huge impact. These are just three of the names that are either in bankruptcy or likely to file for bankruptcy. Only about 45% of states have started letting clubs at least partially open. But notable laggard states include New York and California, so Town Sports has some additional challenges being in New York. And very early data on clubs that have actually reopened indicate that around 30 to 50% of members returning. That to me seems pretty low on a 30% side. I get 50%. Again, my gym opened 4 days ago. I have not yet been back. I do plan to go probably next week. I want to give them a week with their new operating procedures, let them work through some things, and then I'm going to go back. But 30 to 50%, it's a little low. One other area I wanted to touch on is Against this backdrop of gyms and fitness clubs filing for bankruptcy protection, or in best case, just now emerging from what amounts to a 3-month lockdown, and they are starting to open their doors to the public, people have had nearly 3 months to evolve their fitness regime. Many of those avid gym goers have creatively incorporated home workouts into their daily routines, and some of those people will not go back to the gym. Some reasons they might not go back include the following. 1, they realize they can get a really good workout at home without the stress and travel to and from the gym, especially if they're working from home. Number 2, the coronavirus still out there, and gyms have historically not been a bastion of cleanliness. Might not be the place you really want to go and sweat with a bunch of people, even with social distancing requirements in place. Number 3, home workouts actually require less time. If you're a busy person, you have a busy day, getting a quick home workout in, people tend to be more consistent then if they think they can easily fit it in through their day and working out much more regularly. Number 4, can relieve anxiety, help people feel energetic, boost confidence. These are all the things of a normal workout, whether it's at home or at the gym, but it gets back to the point, if you are more consistent in working out because you're working out at home, you're going to more often have that stress relief, have that energy boost, and that confidence boost, knowing that you're getting yourself in better shape day by day. And the 5th area is it supports creativity with regard to what constitutes a workout outside the gym. There's a lot of different creative things I've seen just walking around in parks, and I think people like that rather than more prescribed, go to machine 1, do 10 reps, 3 sets, go to machine 2, etc., etc. They feel that it might just give them more creativity and freedom outside the gym. In fact, there was a survey about gyms reopening conducted by Run Repeat. They surveyed 10,824 gym members to learn if they plan to return to gyms upon reopening and whether they will be keeping their memberships or not. So here are just some of the high-level findings. And this was a global survey, so it included respondents from over 100 countries. And of that 10,824 respondents, 6,600 were from the United States. So there were a healthy chunk, almost 5,000 people from outside the United States. So some of the findings: Americans are the least likely to return to their gyms upon reopening. Just over 50% said they're not likely to go back upon reopening. Now, some of that might be, I'm not going to go right when it reopens, but I'm going to go a month later. So take that with a grain of salt. Nearly half of all gym members globally will not return to their clubs upon reopening. So globally, the number was about 47%. More than a third of all gym members have already canceled or are considering canceling their membership. So 36% globally have already canceled their gym memberships or are planning on canceling it. Women are less likely to return to the gym when reopened, 52%, versus men at 45%. So while it's still early, the data does suggest that people are inclined to potentially cancel their gym memberships, further exacerbating the situation with health clubs. So in summary, while some big name brands in the gym and fitness club industry are seeking bankruptcy protection due primarily to forced shutdowns of the pandemic, other gyms are just now starting to reopen across the country. The outcome of the Chapter 11 proceedings from both Gold's Gym and 24 Hour Fitness remain unknown, but there's a good chance that the brand and maybe some of the physical gym locations will survive the corporate reorganization. In the case of Gold's, only about 5 to 10% of the worldwide clubs are corporate owned, which is the entity that's actually filing for bankruptcy, but the pandemic impact to independently owned franchises is still TBD. As always, though, the consumer adapts accordingly, and in many cases has adjusted nicely to home workouts. Life without gyms has even led to some people who were inactive starting to get off their butt and move, and those who love the gym getting creative with more advanced home exercises. Hopefully going forward, people will have the choice, particularly after we have a COVID-19 vaccine, to go to the gym, work out at home, or likely a mixture of both as we adjust to the new fitness norm. That's it for this week. We'll talk to you next week. With that, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to The Fitterist Show. You can follow us on Instagram at FitterestMindBody and on Twitter at FitterestMind. If you enjoyed this episode, please send it to a friend or subscribe to make sure you don't miss any future episodes of The Fitterist Show. My name is Christopher Allen, and make it a magical day.